So Heavenly Delusion is a brand new anime this Spring 23 anime season, and it is a show you should not sleep on. This show, I am so glad got a simulcast, and we're now in the territory where if Disney or Hulu get something, you know for sure we're still getting it at a relatively good time, because this show has a world honestly unlike anything I've seen exactly like this in anime. Now, there's pieces of it that kind of remind me of almost Promised Neverland vibes. I'm wondering, okay, we're in this world where robots are teaching kids, and is this as much of a paradise or heaven as people are probably making it out to be? But then again, on the outside world, it's almost this post-apocalyptic, but instead of having zombies, you instead have giant monsters that are destroying towns, hurting people, and a woman who I was wondering if she was about to cook up our two lead characters into a stew, turns out is just trying to protect him, at least seemingly right now, as she pumps up the shotgun and is going hunting against probably the most disturbing bird I think I've seen in a hot minute. This show has one of the strongest first episodes I think you're gonna see this season. Now granted, the season just kicked off, but if I'm comparing how usually shows start off in any anime season, this one went out on a bang. It's not like they killed someone, it's not like they destroyed something crazy, but almost from minute one, you should be just shocked at the world building. You're saying, why are they being taught by robots? At one point, there's this dude drawing a fish, and the fish has like a bunch of human hands. I believed it. I was like, oh, this is a weird world. They probably just have fish like that. Nope, just a creative imagination. That's how you know you have something special, when a person in a show could be drawing a fish with a bunch of human hands, and you just immediately are like, huh, I wonder if fish actually are like that in this world. I mean, given the dome that's above them, yeah, we do see there are some adults, but the fact that robots are teaching kids, I mean, what type of world are we truly in? And that's what really made this first episode special, is that from minute one all the way to the very end, I was like, holy, I don't know what I'm watching right now, but this is the type of world building that hooks in a viewer almost right away. Now, before we jump any further, I do have a full live reaction available on my Patreon, so if you do want to see my full uncut thoughts as I watch this for the first time, head on over there and consider supporting, as I have to admit, this one is already like in that spot of like, okay, you know, when you first start an anime season and you say, this is the type of show that could end up being my anime of the season, that's what this first episode gave me. It's early, of course, this is literally the first show I watched this season, but I know my taste, and this is something that I will not be surprised if it's at the very least in the top 3 by the end of this anime season, at least for myself. So this episode's all about establishing what this world functions like. We get a very brief taste of what it's like inside the walls. It starts off, of course, and it almost ends as well inside the walls, but for the most part, we're following two characters, Kiro as well as Maru, who are on some sort of travel. We don't know too much at the beginning, but by the end, we kind of have a good idea. It seems like Kiro was tasked with like some sort of mission to bring this boy to a location, and she seemingly is looking for two people, one of which is known by Doc, and the other is a man clearly important to her. Whether that was a father figure or not, I don't know, but the fact remains is that they're traveling together. Both of them seem quite capable, they're not useless in any way, but the thing that was surprising is it's actually a pretty charming show with a lot of humor. I mean, there's this moment where basically like a group of thugs who just gave me very Predator vibes. I mean, we're like, hey, she's a woman, maybe staying alive was good after all. And immediately the dude's like, all right, hey, like, I'm not a girl, I'm literally a boy. And then she puts her hands up, she's like, I'm a boy too. Just the way they can go about humor in certain ways was actually pretty charming, but I like the fact that they're both capable. She has a laser gun of death that basically disintegrates anything in its path. The battery's fully charged, it has 4 shots. She literally disintegrated a pole, like a hydro pole, and the fact that it was that cool, I mean, it looked weird. I thought, because they kind of call it out, like, hey, that doesn't look like a real gun. I was thinking it was like a laser blast. Turns out it's literally a destruction beam of death. And Maru honestly has some Spider-Man skills. He was jumping around and doing backflips and just honestly felt like a martial arts badass. And I like the fact that we're following two capable people. So when they seemingly get drugged by the end of the episode because they eat this food that tastes delicious, she said it was boar. I was like, oh man, is the reason why this is such a cheap place to stay because she cuts humans up into food so she can eat? I think it's just because she wanted to knock them out so they wouldn't go after a beast that was clearly going to kill them. I mean, we did see in this episode she had a lot of nasty scars all over her body. She also tried to kiss herself in the mirror, but hey, you get lonely on the road during the apocalypse, I suppose. But I like the fact that just every time I was like, this is interesting, you could focus entirely on this and I'll be happy. The first part of this episode is all within this walls where you have these robots teaching kids, and then a message pops up on an iPad that says, do you want to go outside the walls? You could have focused the entire episode inside those walls and it would have been fantastic. But then you shift over to the outside world. Some of the most drop-dead gorgeous background art I think I've seen in a long time. Almost had like a paint aesthetic / texture to it, but just the fact that you immediately could tell that humanity fell long ago. But then you start wondering, okay, there's clearly not zombies here, so what's going to be the antagonist? Is it going to be the robots, potentially? And then over the course of it, you start realizing that there's worse things than zombies. There's humans who will do whatever it takes to survive, both for pleasure and hunger. And then by the end of this episode, you show us a creature that is so disgustingly disturbing yet intriguing that you just want to know more. Seemingly, from my interpretation, these two characters are after the location that we started this episode off, where we have kids going to school raised by robots, and the humans are definitely keeping, or the human adults that is, are keeping a secret from them. But if you ask, they seemingly will answer you. I don't think it's necessarily a lie that there's bad things out there. I just don't know how well these robots and this heavenly delusion is going to turn out, right? So the fact that we're trying to get to this location, but it may not be all it's cracked up to be, I'm very interested to see where the show wants to go, because in terms of this episode, it was mostly about establishing world building, and the world is fascinating. The characters are fun to follow. There's never a dull moment in this episode. The animation is actually surprisingly just reactive. Like the fact that the characters, the way they will walk or they'll jump, it just kind of had a very unique animation style that actually was surprisingly deep, more so than I was expecting. I have to say, I left this episode thinking it was a 10 out of 10 first episode. It hit my humor funny bone. I think the action, while very minimal, was actually quite exhilarating. The tension is almost always there. I didn't know what to think of this woman. I still don't know what to think of this woman, but the fact that she cracked an incest joke that made me laugh, because she's looking at these two being like, okay, there's clearly some romantic tension, but he's calling you sis. I gotta say, maybe you shouldn't sleep with a close relative, as the offspring could be rather bad. And then we learned that no, they're actually not related at all. I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty hilarious joke. That honestly cracked me up, I have to admit. I like this episode. It was very different, and if I compare my thoughts from the winter season, while I loved that season, I mean, if this is a good sign of things to come, this season's going to be even better. I love shows that are post-apocalyptic, and honestly, that's the vibe I get here. Humanity has fallen long ago. Those who survived outside the walls are not doing so hot, and those that did are seemingly controlled by robots, or at the very least being taught by robots. But then again, how long can that facade go on? I don't know. But either way, between the almost promised Neverland walls vibes, we're trying to keep you safe, but then again, what's going to happen when, maybe these robots want something else? Maybe the robots will be fine the entire time, I don't know. But then you also have the almost Last of Us story hook of like, here's this traveling companion, get him to this location with this post-apocalyptic world. It's just absolutely fantastic. For me anyway, it was a perfect first episode, and yeah, definitely, obviously if you can't tell, I highly recommend it. But let me know your thoughts if you have any feelings on the first episode of Heavenly Delusion. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Be sure to ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload on the channel. And hey, as I mentioned, we do have full live reactions to the first episode of this, and I'm going to have full live reactions to basically everything I'm covering this season on my Patreon, so consider supporting if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.